Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Hopefully, everybody's having a great Thursday so far. Hopefully, it continues to be great for you. Wanted to anybody wants to chime in today. We're going to be talking about top 10 list. We've been doing about one per week. And if you recall, last week it was top 10 all-time baby faces. Well, today we're going to do top 10 all-time heels, and we're going to get into that coming up here in just a second. Before I get into that, I want to say thank you to all those that are going to chime in throughout the show today. I greatly appreciate it and wanted to thank you in advance, and I also wanted to say a big thank you to Curtis Coleman for coming by last night talking about the Gray Bell Auction Show this upcoming Saturday. If you have not watched last night's interview with Curtis Coleman, please feel free to go back and watch it and give it a like, comment, share, and subscribe to the page. And come out this Saturday if you're in or around the area and support all of us local indie guys that are going to be at Gray Bell Auction on Saturday night with Rhino and Johnny Swinger and all of us local indie guys. Today's video, like I said, is going to be about top 10 heels. And just like last week we did top 10 baby faces. And I know I said it on there. If not, I apologize. I meant to say it, but I'll go ahead and say it again, that this list is basically about crowd reaction. It has nothing to do with your in-ring skills, nothing like that, because whether or not you're a baby face or a heel doesn't matter if you don't get the right response from the crowd. Look at how many years Roman Reigns was supposed to be a good guy, but he got booed. It doesn't matter if you're considered a good guy or not. If you get booed, you're not a good guy. And there was a time a few years back when Randy Orton had a feud going with Bray Wyatt, where Randy Orton was supposed to be the bad guy, but yet the fans liked him so much, he was getting cheered. So even though he was supposed to be a bad guy, if you're getting cheered, you're not a bad guy. If you're supposed to be a good guy, but you're getting booed, you're not a good guy. If you don't get the proper response from the crowd, it doesn't matter what you consider yourself as. The crowd reaction and the crowd response is what you are. And there won't be any tag teams on this list. I try to make it singles wrestlers only because with tag teams, it's kind of hard to tell because a lot of times with a tag team, it doesn't really matter what you're classified as. If one wrestler is liked and one wrestler is booed, you're really not going to get the proper response that you're looking for. So because of that, I try to go with just singles wrestlers. And then that way, the reaction you get is the reaction you get, not the reaction you get because your partner was loved or hated or, whichever way you want to look at it. So we're going to do top 10 heels of all time, and let me know if you agree with my list or not. Number 10 on my list was the King, Harley Race. Now, I know you got to go back a long ways to watch his matches and watch his stuff and watch his work in action, but he was an amazing talent for a long time. So Harley Race comes in at number 10 on my list of all-time top 10 heels. Number 9 on my list was Triple H. Now, I know Triple H was around for a long time, but there was a time when he carried around that sledgehammer where he was really, really hated for a long period of time. I can recall being in school and me and all my wrestling friends would sit around and talk about Triple H, and they could not stand him because he always had that sledgehammer. They just could not stand the fact that he always had that sledgehammer. So there was a time when Triple H was a very, very, very good heel. Number 8 on my list is the guy that's going to shock some people, but he was actually a really good heel. He just wasn't a heel for very long because people liked his character so much. He quickly became a babyface, but that was the Undertaker. When he first debuted in 1990 with Paul Bearer, he was a heel, and I believe he was going to be a heel for a long time. But the character and the gimmick was so popular that after a couple of years, he transitioned to become a face. But when he was a heel, he was very good at being a heel. Number 7 on my list is CM Punk. Now, CM Punk was one of those guys that played face and heel. He did both. But there towards the middle of his WWE tenure when he was in his prime, and he was good, and he was making fun of Paul Bearer after Paul Bearer just died. He did some amazing, amazing things as a heel, and he was phenomenal at it. So CM Punk's number 7 on my list. Number 6 on my list was a guy that if you watched last week's countdown, you'll know he was number 1 on my list for baby faces, but that was because of the reaction he got for about 5 years consistently when he was doing the Hulk Hogan gimmick. But when he left and went to WCW and turned heel and joined the NWO, that may have been the last time that I was truly, truly shocked watching wrestling, and it was something that I just did not expect. And when it did happen, not only was I shocked and stunned and amazed that it happened, because I never pictured Hulk Hogan being a heel, but after he did it, it worked for about a year and a half straight. He was very, very, very good as a heel. Me and a buddy of mine from work the other day were talking about it, and I was telling him that I can recall being in high school when all that stuff happened, and it may have been truly the last time that I watched wrestling, and I was like, you know what? That surprised me, and that's what wrestling is about. You want things that you don't expect to see. You want things that are shocking, and nobody ever thought that Hulk Hogan would turn heel, and it was great, and he was good at it. You know, some guys do both, but some guys can't do both great. He did both very, very good. Now, if he'd have been a heel for a long, long, long period of time, it may not have worked. But for the short time frame that he did it, he was very good at it. Before we get into the top 5, we'll recap numbers 10 through 6, just in case you haven't watched the whole video. Number 10 on my list was Harley Race. Number 9 was Triple H. Number 8 was The Undertaker. Number 7 was CM Punk. And number 6 was Hollywood Hogan. And please feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We always enjoy getting new subscribers. We're trying to get to 500 because I know we've said it numerous times, but I'll keep saying it. We had a giveaway at 100, and we're going to have a giveaway when we get to 500. So the faster we get to 500 is the faster we'll have our next giveaway. I've already given the prize to the person that won the subscriber 100 giveaway. So if you know the person, you can actually talk to him. His name was Blake. He won. He's already got his prize. So if you need to know that it's legit, talk to him. He'll tell you he got his prize. I don't just say this stuff. I mean it. So we're trying to get to 500. And when we get there, we'll have our next giveaway. And I'm wearing my Braves hat because I was going to go back and forth with the Braves hat and my Clemson hat, but the Braves have won 3 in a row. So I feel like, hey, maybe I got some good vibes going on wearing this hat. So I'm going to keep wearing this hat. I said one time to the gym instructor, can you teach me to do splits? He said, how flexible are you? And I said, I can't make Tuesdays. And that is your dad joke of the day. I wanted to go ahead and throw that in there because I know nobody was expecting our dad joke in the middle of our top 10 countdown. Next week, our top 10 countdown is going to be top 10 all-time masked wrestlers. I was asked to do that, so we're going to do that next week. So if you've got a masked wrestler that you like, please feel free to comment at any time. I'm not going to tell you whether or not they're going to be on the list because I don't want to give the list away, but I do want to know if you have an opinion about a wrestler that wore a mask that you liked, no matter what company it was, what time frame it was. I don't do this based on a certain company or a certain time frame. It's all time. As a matter of fact, the list I'm doing right now that's top 10 all-time heels, if I do this list again in 10 years, there's probably some wrestlers that wrestle right now that would be on the list. There's a couple of guys on the list that are still around, but they've been around for a long time. Like, I'll give you an example. Kenny Omega. He's a great heel. Phenomenal wrestler, but a great heel. But to me, he hasn't been doing it long enough to be considered the greatest of all time. You have to do it for a lengthy period of time to be considered one of the greatest. He hasn't been around quite long enough yet. Not only that, he also does babyface gimmick and heel gimmick. So he hasn't really been a heel for a long enough period of time, in my opinion, to be on this list. But 5 years from now, maybe so. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into our top 5. Number 5 on my list is a guy that is still around, but he's been doing it for a long time, and that is Randy Orton. And the only reason he's not higher is because even though he prefers being a heel and he likes to be a heel, for some reason, the fans, a lot of times, depending on who he's feuding with, actually cheer for him. Otherwise, he would be higher on the list because, to me, he's a phenomenal heel and has been for a long time, ever since the days of Evolution. When he first was part of Evolution, he was a great heel, and he was barely even 23, 24 years old. But as time's progressed, everything he's done, he's always been a phenomenal, phenomenal heel. So number 5 on my list is Randy Orton. Number 4 is a man that was also on my list last week for top 10 all-time baby faces. But he was also a great heel. He just wasn't a heel for as long a period of time as he should have been because the crowd loved him so much. But a lot of people still consider his WrestleMania match with Ricky Steamboat back in 1987 to be one of the best, if not the best wrestling matches of all time. And if you have not seen that match, go back and watch it, not just because this man is on my list, but because it was an amazing match. And you'll actually see this guy when he was a heel, and he was good at it, especially when he had sensational share. But number 4 on my list was the Macho Man when he was doing the Macho King gimmick. He was an amazing, amazing talent, but he was an amazing heel. I personally liked him better as a heel as I did a face, but apparently I'm one of the few people that thought so because he had such an illustrious career as a babyface, but I liked him better as a heel. Number 3 on my list is Scott Steiner. Now, I know Scott Steiner was in a tag team with his brother for many years, but when they broke up and he dyed his goatee blonde and he dyed his hair blonde and started calling himself a Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, Big Papa Pump is your hookup, holler if you hear me. You can still to this day get on YouTube and type up some of the things he would say on the mic when he was doing that gimmick, and it was amazing. You know, when you're in the ring and you're just talking and people are trying to shoot you with stuff and throw stuff at you and pour stuff on you and shouting obscenities and everything else, you know you're doing your job as a heel. That's when you truly, truly know that you've made it as a face or a heel, when you get reaction like that. So when you're a heel and people want to shoot you and stab you and throw stuff at you, and you can see him on TV throwing stuff at him, pouring stuff on him, that's when you know you've truly made it with your character. But Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, is your hookup, holler if you hear me, was an amazing, amazing heel character. Number 2 on my list is probably another guy that was a babyface and a heel, but to me as a heel, he was so funny. I know you got to go back 30, 35 years to really see how good he was as a heel. He's no longer with us, but he was an amazing, especially doing his interviews, and that was Roddy Piper. When he was doing Piper's Pit, his feud with Jimmy Snuka and his feud with Don Morocco were both great, but Roddy Piper was an amazing heel. And the guy that's number 1 on my list is number 1, not just because he was also on my countdown for top 10 all-time best wrestlers, because he was an amazing wrestler, but he was also an amazing heel. And it wasn't just the fact that he was good at it. He did it in different promotions, different decades, for different bookers, and basically had the same character all that time, and it worked. So when you can do that and you really truly don't have to evolve because your character that you're doing just evolves over time and you change nothing, that's when you know you're good at what you do. And number 1 on my list was the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. He called himself the dirtiest player in the game for a reason. He was an amazing, amazing heel for many years. Of course, he's still around today, but he's not really on TV every single week. but he's still around and still trying to be involved in wrestling at 72 years old. That tells you that man has passion for the wrestling business, and that's what I appreciate the most. But please feel free to comment on the video and let me know if you agree with my countdown or not. I always love to get your feedback. Of course, these countdowns, all except for the one that I did on candy bars, which was the very first countdown we did. Outside of that countdown, that I found that on the internet, and it was based on sales. But outside of that one, all these lists are my opinion. So everybody's opinion is going to be different. So I don't expect your opinion to be the exact same as mine, but if it is, that's great. I mean, it's a free country. You're free to be wrong. But we all know my opinion is the right one. No, I'm just kidding. It really doesn't matter. I really do appreciate the feedback at all times. I really do. I want to see if you agree with my list or not. We can have fun talking about it. I enjoy the talk. I enjoy the conversation. I really do. That's why I do these countdowns every week. I try to do one a week so that it kind of takes us off the grid. I know there's always sports to talk about, and I love talking about sports, but you've got to break away sometimes and do these lists just for fun. So if you have not watched all my top 10 countdowns, we've did about 5 or 6 so far. I've been doing one a week since we started the channel. So there should be about 6 or 7 on there. Like I said, the very first one was top 10 all-time candy bar sales. That was just what I wanted to do to show you that when we have the top 10 list, it doesn't have to be sports-based. It can be something not sports-based. The second week I did top 10 all-time TV comedies. That was my opinion, but it was still something that wasn't sports-based, wasn't sports-related. Now, ever since then, all the requests I've been getting for top 10s are about sports and wrestling, which is fine. But I'm just mentioning that so you know that the top 10 countdown doesn't have to be about sports, but I have no problem if it is about sports. We did top 10 all-time best wrestlers. We did top 10 all-time baseball players. We did top 10 all-time babyface wrestlers and top 10 all-time heel wrestlers. And next week, we're going to do top 10 all-time masked wrestlers. Then the week after that, we're going to do top 10 all-time female wrestlers. I had a request to do masked wrestlers and female wrestlers. So we've got the next 2 weeks of top 10 countdowns saved up. And then after that, if you've got an idea, that's perfectly fine, as long as it's clean and family friendly and not political based. I don't do politics. Anything outside of that is perfectly fine. If you have any ideas, please feel free to let me know. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you have not watched my interview last night with Curtis Coleman, please feel free to go back and watch it. And we greatly appreciate Curtis Coleman swinging by the house last night when he was in the area to talk about the Gray Bell Auction Show this upcoming Saturday. And if you're in the area or around the area and know where Royston, Georgia is, please come out Saturday and be with us. It'll be $10 per ticket. It's normally $5, but since Rhino's coming and Johnny Swinger's coming, it will be $10 this Saturday. But we only run once a month, so you can afford $10 one time every 4 or 5 months. The rest of the time when we run once a month, it's only $5. So it's not like you're paying $10 once a month. Typically, you pay $5 once a month. So for this one-time occasion with Rhino coming and Johnny Swinger coming, I think we can all afford to pay $10 that one time. So hopefully we'll see all of y'all Saturday night at the Gray Bell Auction, which is located at 1681 Shirley Road in Royston, Georgia. And maybe in the future, we can have more guests stop by, especially if it's sports or wrestling related. I always enjoy talking sports and wrestling. So maybe down the line in the future, we'll have some more guests come by the house and get on here and chit chat with us. But until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.